Lionel trains can be intimidating, especially if you're new to the hobby. In this video, we will talk about the different ways to buy Lionel trains, what to look for, and most importantly, how to get a good deal. Let's get started. The first thing to discuss is the many ways to buy Lionel trains. The main places you're going to find trains are shows, hobby shops, antique stores, and online. First, let's talk about buying trains online. Buying model trains online has many advantages, and is probably the most popular place to buy model trains. These advantages include the ease of buying online, and also the massive amount of availability online platforms have. If you're looking to order new trains, I would recommend buying from online dealers or hobby shop websites, such as Legacy Station, Mr. Muffin's Trains, Train World, places like that. These are great places to pre-order models, as you're going to find the best discounts on pre-order prices from bigger dealers. These bigger online dealers are also going to have the best place to buy new trains, as they will often have leftover models from previous orders. Now, the best part of buying from bigger online dealers is that they're going to be very reliable, they have lots of experience, and they value customer satisfaction. Sometimes when you order these complex, newer trains, they have issues, and if you do have issues, you know these dealers are going to help you make it right. So if you're looking to buy new trains, I recommend these larger online dealers. One of the largest places to buy all kinds of trains, new and old, is going to be trains.com. That's trains with a Z. Just like many other online dealers, Trains is a very knowledgeable and reputable place to buy, plus the inventory is staggering. If you're looking for something, Trains probably has it, and if they don't, they probably will in the future. Now, from my experience, Trains is going to be a good place to buy bigger items in lots. I wouldn't recommend buying smaller pieces, as from my experience, their shipping prices can be a little high, but they also have many lots, so it's easy to find decent prices that way. Plus, Trains often has discounts and promo codes, which makes it easy to save some money. Overall, Trains is a great place to buy Lionel online, as they have lots of inventory, decent pricing, and are a very reputable business. Another one of the most popular places to buy trains online is going to be eBay. eBay needs no introduction, everybody knows what eBay is, and have probably purchased or at least looked for something on it at some point. eBay is also going to have a massive inventory of Lionel to buy. I find eBay is best for buying used items, although there is a good bit of newer product, but you need to be careful, which will be discussed shortly. eBay needs a bit more of a skillful approach. First of all, anybody can sell on eBay, which means you're going to encounter a lot of people who don't sell trains. This means it's up to the buyer to be knowledgeable of what they're looking at. When buying on eBay, it's very important to be thorough, read the entire description of the model, look at every picture in detail, and review the feedback of the store. Don't be afraid to message a seller with any questions you may have, as it might be able to provide help. In general, though, most people on eBay are going to have good intentions, and it's pretty easy to return an item or get your money back. Price-wise, eBay is extremely varied. It really depends on the seller. And if you want to learn more about getting a good deal on eBay, make sure you watch to the end of the video. Overall, though, eBay pricing is going to be relatively middle of the road. Some stuff can be pricey, and sometimes you can get a good deal. One thing to be careful of is that the price you see isn't always going to be the price that you pay. After shipping and fees, for example, you may see an item for $15 and think it's a good deal, and when everything is said and done, it's closer to $30. So, much like many other online platforms, it's best to buy bigger items to get the most bang for your buck. Overall, eBay can be a great place to buy trains, but it does require a bit more caution and prior knowledge. A great place to look for good deals are online auction sites. These places tend to receive less traffic than other sites, and you may be able to snag a good deal. But beware that many of these auction sites have fees in addition to shipping price, so that's something to keep in mind. Another good place to look for Lionel trains are online marketplaces like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. On marketplaces, you're going to find a lot of people who don't sell trains, which has its opportunities as well as its disadvantages, but have great deal potential. But of course, with the nature of online marketplaces, you're likely going to meet up in person, which limits the already smaller market. But again, online marketplaces have great buying potential, there's just some factors to keep in mind. The next place to find Lionel trains are going to be antique stores, antique malls, flea markets, and those sorts of venues. Now, due to the nature of these kinds of places, you're not guaranteed to find any train stuff, as it's most likely not their focus. But I would say you have a pretty decent chance of finding something in my experience. Most antique stores will have a few pieces. Now, personally, I wouldn't recommend using these as the best places to buy trains due to the more limited availability, and there's less room for getting a good deal because pretty much anyone can look up the price of something on the internet. Plus, a lot of times people see the word Lionel and they see dollar signs, which is often not the case. So I wouldn't recommend relying on antique stores and other places like that, but they are definitely fun to stop in and take a look, and sometimes you can find what you're looking for. The next place to find Lionel trains are going to be hobby shops. Now, hobby shops are a great way to find trains, new and old. They're going to have a ton of availability, and are for the most part very reputable and knowledgeable, and are most likely going to have decent pricing. Another benefit of buying from hobby shops is that it's a great buying experience. It's a lot of fun to buy from a shop, talk to people in the hobby, sometimes see layouts, and see lots of trains. So that to me provides a lot of value. Another benefit of buying from hobby shops, or really any in-person format, is that you can really inspect a piece before you buy it, so you know exactly what you're getting. Pricing-wise, I found that most hobby shops are fairly reasonable, but it can be relatively hit or miss, depending on the item in the store, so it really depends. For the most part, they're going to know what they have, so you probably won't walk away with a steal. But there are some good ways to get deals at hobby shops, so make sure you watch to the end of the video to see that. Also, depending on the store, you might be able to haggle and find a deal that way. When it comes to buying new trains, hobby shops are great, as you can pre-order from almost any shop, and they have a great inventory of new stuff. Another great aspect of hobby shops is that they are often a one-stop deal. They'll have, in addition to locomotives and rolling stock, plenty of track, accessories, scenery, layout building material, and so on. So hobby shops will basically have everything you need in one place. Hobby shops are going to be a great way to start the hobby, as you're going to have everything you need, and people will be happy to give advice. Overall, hobby shops are one of the best places to buy trains, if you can find one. That's another thing. Nowadays, there are less and less so-called brick-and-mortar shops as a result of competition from online. So depending on where you live, you may not be able to get to a good hobby shop, but if you can, I highly recommend them for buying model trains. Now it's time to talk about my favorite place to buy Lionel trains, and that is train shows. Train shows are a bit different as they only come around a few times a year, and depending on where you live, you might not be able to get to any at all. Train shows will also have a large amount of variety as it's many different vendors and sellers, so it depends on the show what you're going to find. Much like hobby shops, train shows also provide a ton of value from the experience. There will often be operating layouts, displays, hundreds of model trains to look at and buy, and tons of other hobbyists to talk to. This aspect alone makes train shows one of my favorite ways to buy trains, but the biggest reason I prefer train shows is that this is where you're going to find your best deals by far. In my experience, train shows are going to have the lowest pricing in general, and I think there's a couple reasons for this. First is often a lot of vendors at train shows are fellow collectors who aren't looking to make as much off their sales. And another reason is being the sense that vendors have to bring their trains to the show and are more likely to accept lower prices so that they don't have to bring as much product back with them. So for me, if you know what to look for, make deals, you can find the best deals at a train show. Now, the kind of trains you can expect to find at shows, again, varies from show to show. But bigger shows will often have larger dealers present, which is going to be where you're most likely to find more modern stuff, as well as vintage, and maybe some scenery and accessories. Smaller vendors and independent sellers are going to have a large variety of inventory, as it's often whatever they're trying to get rid of at the moment. Overall, shows will have a good mix of everything, but I found that they are most largely composed of older trains. When buying from shows, it is important to have a bit more caution due to the fact that these setups aren't permanent, and sellers have less incentive to be completely honest, so you need to be familiar and confident with what you're buying. But since shows are in-person affairs, you can get a good idea of what you are purchasing. Overall, train shows are super fun and, in my opinion, the cheapest way to buy model trains. Now that we've discussed the different places to buy Lionel trains, let's talk about what to look for when you're buying and how to get a good deal. Some things to look for when buying Lionel trains is first going to be condition. When it comes to model trains, and especially Lionel trains, condition is everything. It can be the difference between a $100 and a $1,000 model. All models are going to have a varying degree of wear, but there are some things to look for. First is if a model has any rust. To me personally, I don't buy models with large amounts of rust or corrosion. Surface rust in small amounts are fine, but anything deep I would be cautious. Rust is an issue which must be addressed, or it may get worse. If you're looking for a model to buy and run with minimal work, I would avoid anything with large amounts of rust. Another thing to check is the condition of wheels and trucks. On pre-war models, check drive wheels as they are notorious for developing zinc pest and falling apart, so be wary of this when purchasing pre-war models. Many older Lionel trucks from the pre-1960s will feature some sheet metal construction. These can easily become deformed over time, causing cars to not roll properly. Also check to make sure wheels appear relatively clean and in proper gauge if possible. Many Lionel postwar diesel locomotives included batteries for the operating of the horn. These were often left in the model and would heavily corrode the model. Check any postwar Lionel diesel for corrosion from batteries before buying. Check the condition of couplers and make sure that all the pieces are present and in decent condition, or rolling stock may have an issue staying coupled. Many older models feature areas which become damaged easy. These include the front skirts of Alco locomotives, window struts, steam locomotive pilots and cab roofs, small details on accessories and operating cars such as antenna or fence post, in addition to many more. Thoroughly examine any piece for damage before purchase, as it may be tricky to spot at a glance. Another thing to take note of is if a model has been touched up, restored, or custom painted. Although these modifications may add some personal value to the piece, they devalue the model heavily. Custom paint jobs will likely be easy to spot and may actually make the model more desirable for some, but it is important to be aware if you're purchasing a Lionel original or not. Restorations and touch-ups can be a bit trickier to spot. Be cautious of any older piece which appears in high-grade condition, especially tinplate trades, as it could be restorations, and will not be worth the price of a similar condition original. Early restorations could sometimes be very difficult to distinguish from originals. Some ways to spot restorations include printing and graphics, as well as paint color and varnish. Compare with originals to spot inconsistencies. Buying restorations can be tricky, so make sure to be confident that what you're buying is original. Something to be cautious of is the many reproductions and repaints of postwar Lionel models in efforts at producing a rare variant. There have been many great articles on spotting these fakes, but some of the most commonly faked models include rare variants of the FM Trainmasters, 64 series boxcars, F3 locomotives, and many others. Be very wary when purchasing rare models. If the price seems too good to be true, it probably is. Another factor which can majorly alter the price of a model is if the original box is included or not. The boxes that these trains came in are very collectible and valuable, sometimes just as much as the model inside. Boxes make a big difference in the value of an item, so take that into account when purchasing a model. Of course, these standards are just my personal opinion, and just what I would recommend for someone looking to buy models to operate with limited work. Now that we've talked about what to look for when buying Lionel trains, let's talk about ways to get a good deal. First, let's talk about online. The majority of the trains that I buy online are purchased from eBay, and there's many ways to find trains for cheaper. The first is to utilize eBay's best offer feature. The best offer feature allows you to offer a seller the amount of money that you're willing to pay for an item. Not all listings will have this option, but many will. I have gotten many good deals on eBay using this feature, and I encourage the use of it. You may be surprised by what people are willing to sell for. Another great way to get good deals is to participate in more auctions. Now, not every auction is going to end with a steal, but I find the average sale price of auctions is much lower than other buy it now listings. In fact, unless you find a buy it now price that is worth the value you're willing to pay, I would search for alternative purchase methods. Auctions hold lots of deal potential, as you will only pay the amount you're willing, and some auctions may go unnoticed. In fact, this brings me to my next point, using eBay's ending soon and newly listed search options. Filtering searches for auctions ending soon allows you to find auctions which are about to close. This allows for the potential of finding a low bid auction which are about to end, so you can sweep in and win an item with a low bid, assuming the auction doesn't have a reserve. eBay's newly listed search filter allows you to find the newest items on eBay. This allows you to find the best items faster. If something is listed for a good price, it's most likely to sell quickly, so by searching newly listed, you have a greater chance of finding deals. I personally basically exclusively search by newly listed on eBay. Another great way to get deals is to buy lots. When buying lots, you're more likely to pay less for an item than if it was sold alone, and this goes for any online format. Trains especially will often group several pieces into lots, allowing you to find some good deals. Now, sometimes you might find an item in a lot that you want, but the other items are not of interest to you. What I do when looking at lots is evaluate what I want from the lot, what I'm willing to pay for what I want, if I think the lot is worth. If I think the lot's something I'd be willing to pay, I'd consider paying. Oftentimes, looking at big lots can be exciting, but break them down piece by piece. You may find it contains a lot of stuff you don't want, so make sure you are only paying the price you're willing to pay for the items you want. The biggest tip I have for finding good deals online is to look. I found many great deals on websites like eBay, but I've also spent many hours searching, finding nothing. I spend at least 20 minutes a day on eBay searching through newly listed items, and often there is nothing, but sometimes you get lucky, and if you want to find good deals online, you have to look. Now let's talk about some of the other ways to pay less for your trains. First is to buy trains that need work. Yeah, it seems obvious, but buying trains that don't operate is a great way to build your collection on a budget. Repairing trains isn't for everyone, but I encourage people to develop the skills to fix basic models, as it will alleviate much of the worry when purchasing a model, especially older trains. Repairing older Lionel trains, basically anything without a computer board, is very easy, and anybody can do it with just a few tools. If you're looking for vintage trains for a good deal, consider buying trains for repair. If you're at a show, swap meet, or flea market, don't be afraid to make offers and haggle. Now, it can be intimidating at first, but unless specified, most will be willing to hear out offers and come down on price. You can also group items together for a whole price, which allows you to take a bit off the price. For example, say someone has 3 cars for $25 each. You offer $60 for the lot. That's $5 of each car. Grouping items has a great value potential. Many hobby shops will have junk bins filled with various cheaper random items. Just spend time digging through these, as you may find something you want. They often won't have a price, so they may say a cheaper price, or you can offer a price to pay. The last tip I have for getting deals applies to shows or any buying event. If you wait towards the end of the event, you can pick up some great deals by making offers to people before business closes and it's time to pack up. Many are much more willing to accept cheaper offers, as it's their last chance to move inventory before packing up. Taking a final walk around and making offers has great potential for finding great deals. Now, what exactly is considered a good deal is really up to you. The best price is the one you're happy to pay, and that varies from item to item and person to person. What something is worth is really an objective value based on sale price. But even then, it's still good to know roughly the value of an item before you purchase it. I recommend getting a pocket price guide, which you can study and even bring with you from place to place. Another great way to develop the skill for telling how much a model is worth is to study sold listings on websites like eBay. It takes time, but with more experience you will develop a feel for how much something is worth, and it's a good skill to have. It'll make buying trains even easier. But again, the most important factor in how much you pay for a model is how much you're happy with paying. Overall, there are many great places to buy Lionel trains, key things to look for, and many great ways to pay less for your trains. I hope you learned something from this video and enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like or a comment. And if you'd like to see more stuff like this, subscribe to my channel. Thanks.